It's really hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dr. Manmohan Singh's passing.
Oh, yeah.
It it feels like, the nation's lost one of those figures,
Absolutely.
like a really steady guiding light
Yeah.
in our history.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
A life that was just, so deeply connected to the story of India, especially, in those decades where
Yeah.
the country went through this incredible economic transformation.
Exactly. And you think about his journey,
Yeah.
right? I mean, starting from, those very humble beginnings
Right.
in that village Gah, which is, now in Pakistan.
Right.
And he goes on to become Prime Minister of India.
Yeah.
It's almost like, if you look at the 20th century
Yeah.
and all the changes that happened,
Yeah.
his life is kind of a microcosm of that.
It really is.
And then just thinking about, his family having to migrate to India during partition in 1947.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine, the impact
Yeah.
of something like that on a young mind?
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting how, he had that early education in Urdu.
Right.
And it stayed with him. I mean, even when he became prime minister,
Yeah.
he wrote his Hindi speeches in the Urdu script.
Wow.
Sometimes even using Gurmukhi.
Really? I did not realize that.
It shows you how deeply connected he was to his roots, even as he's navigating this very complex world of Indian politics.
Yeah. And academically, I mean, he soared.
Oh, he excelled.
At every level.
Right.
Like topping his class
Yeah.
at Punjab University.
Right.
Studying economics at Cambridge.
Cambridge and Oxford.
Earning a DPhil from Oxford.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really,
Not your typical
what that's
politician's background, no. Not at all.
Yeah.
And what I find really fascinating is how he spoke about his time at Cambridge.
Okay.
Especially studying with these giants in the field, like Joan Robinson,
Oh, wow.
Nicholas Caldor.
Yeah.
And he said, they made him think the unthinkable.
Yeah.
And what he meant by that was
Yeah.
they really challenged his assumptions about economics.
Right.
And its relationship to politics and society.
Right.
And it's almost like those years were really laying the foundation
Yeah.
for the reformer that he would become.
Right. And it wasn't like, immediately after all that,
Yeah.
he jumps into politics.
Not at all.
It's almost as if he went through each level
Right.
of expertise.
He did.
Right. To really build up
Yeah,
to that leadership role.
absolutely. I mean, professor at Punjab University
Yeah.
and, the Delhi School of Economics,
Right.
working with the United Nations,
Yeah.
advising the Ministry of Foreign Trade,
Yeah.
becoming the chief economic advisor in the Ministry of Finance. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a resume that just demonstrates
Yeah.
this incredible deep understanding of how government works.
Right.
How the global economy functions.
Right.
It's really remarkable.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's, his time as the governor of the Reserve Bank of India,
Exactly.
and then later as deputy chairman of the Planning Commission.
Right.
I mean, these were really the roles, right?
Yeah.
That placed him right at the center
At the heart.
of India's economic policy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this kind of leads us to 1991,
Okay.
which was, a pivotal year for India.
Yeah.
A year that could have gone
Yeah.
in a very different direction.
Right.
The country was facing the severe economic crisis,
Yeah.
8.5% fiscal deficit,
Gosh.
a balance of payments crisis.
Yeah.
Foreign reserves were dwindling.
Yeah.
It was a moment that demanded really bold action.
Yeah.
Right.
And Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao
Right.
brings in Dr. Singh
Yeah.
as finance minister
Right at that crucial moment.
at that crucial juncture. Yeah.
I remember, how tense things were
Oh, absolutely.
back then.
Yeah.
People were genuinely worried
Yeah.
about the future of the country.
Right.
And it was really Dr. Singh, facing opposition,
Yeah.
even from within his own party.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Who spearheaded those truly landmark economic reforms?
He did.
Oh.
I mean, this is where his academic background
Yeah.
and his practical experience
Gosh, so-
really came together.
Yeah.
I mean, he understood that, the license Raj,
Yeah.
which was this incredibly complex system
Yeah.
of permits and regulations
Right.
that had really stifled businesses in India.
Yeah.
He understood that had to be dismantled.
Right.
He pushed for opening up the Indian economy.
To foreign investment. It was a gamble,
Yeah.
but one that ultimately paid off,
Right. Right. It paid off tremendously. And it's a gamble that some people say was inspired by.
You know, a lot of people draw the comparison to Deng Xiaoping's reforms in China at that time.
Yeah. But Dr. Singh, he made sure to tailor it.
Yes.
To the Indian context, right?
He did. It wasn't simply a copy-paste job.
Right.
He knew that India needed stability.
Yeah.
He knew that there had to be social safety nets in place. Even as he was pushing for greater market liberalization.
Right.
You know, he was walking this very delicate tightrope.
Yeah.
But his commitment to India's long-term growth never wavered. And then in 2004, you know, it was a surprise to a lot of people, even those who had been watching Indian politics for a long time. Sonia Gandhi, you know, she leads the Congress Party to victory, and then declines the prime ministership.
Yeah.
And it's Dr. Singh, you know, this quiet, unassuming technocrat who had never actually held elected office before.
Right.
He's the one who's chosen to lead the world's largest democracy.
It's amazing when you think about it now.
It is.
It's easy to forget.
Yeah.
But there really was like a genuine sense of hope.
Oh, absolutely.
When he was appointed.
Yeah.
People really saw him as you know, a clean, capable leader. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that was such a contrast, right?
It was.
To how people viewed.
To the perception of corruption.
Yeah.
That had really plagued, you know, Indian politics for quite some time.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that perception of integrity really did define
his time in office.
Yeah, his time in office.
And you know, his first term, you saw this just flurry of policy initiatives, all aimed at improving the lives of everyday Indians. You know, the National Rural Health Mission, this massive effort to try and strengthen healthcare in rural areas.
Yeah.
The Unique Identification Authority, which ultimately gave us Aadhaar, you know, providing a unique identity to millions of people, bringing them into the formal economy.
Right.
I mean, these were huge undertakings.
Absolutely. And of course, the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme in REGA as we know it, promising 100 days of paid work to rural households.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bold move, right?
It was a bold move to try and tackle poverty head on. Yeah. And let's not forget the Right to Information Act.
Oh, yeah.
The RTI.
Yes.
You know, empowering citizens to hold the government accountable.
Yeah. I mean, these weren't just like policies.
These were transformations.
Yeah.
You know?
That really affected the lives.
That touched the lives of millions.
Of so many people, yeah.
Yeah.
And all of this happening, right?
Yeah.
While the Indian economy was still like going up.
To grow.
Yeah.
I mean, you reached 9% growth.
Yeah.
India became the second fastest growing economy.
Global.
Next in the world.
I mean, he oversaw this incredible period of progress, right?
It was.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, it wasn't all, you know, smooth sailing.
Right.
Think back to 2008 when his government almost collapsed because of the opposition to the civilian nuclear deal with the United States.
Yeah.
The left parties withdrew their support, and it created this
major political crisis.
Huge crisis.
Yeah. And a deal that many saw as crucial to India's energy security and its strategic relationship.
And that relationship with the U.S.
With the U.S., yeah.
Yeah.
And Dr. Singh really stood his ground, didn't he?
He did.
On that.
He did.
Yes.
He saw the long-term importance of that agreement. Yeah. And he was willing to navigate that incredibly complex political landscape to get it done. And it really showed, you know, this quiet determination that often I think went unrecognized.
Yes.
You know, it's easy to overlook those things.
And his approach to foreign policy as well, I think, was really fascinating.
It was.
You know, he understood that India's place in the world was changing. Right.
Yeah.
And he
actively worked to strengthen those ties with key partners. Yeah. Absolutely. So, you know, you saw the strengthening of ties with the United States.
Right.
You saw, you know, improving relations with Afghanistan.
Yeah.
India even became the largest regional donor to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And closer relationships with Japan, the European Union, and then, of course, key developing nations like Brazil and South Africa.
Right.
You know, these were all really important relationships for India.
And of course, you know, it was during his second term in 2009 that the BRICS grouping
formally came into being.
Yeah.
You know, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa.
Yeah.
You know, a real testament, I think, to the rising influence of these economies.
On the global stage.
On the world stage, you know.
A grouping that he...
And a grouping that Dr. Singh played a key role in shaping, you know. And it's remarkable to think that, you know, this was all happening alongside those really bold domestic policy initiatives. You know, it was a period of intense activity. And he was at the helm of it all.
He was right at the center of it.
Yeah.
It's amazing too when you think about, you know,
Yeah.
His personal style.
Right.
Right. I mean, this is a man who chose to drive a Maruti 800.
I know.
Right.
For goodness sake.
Like one of India's most modest cars.
Yeah. There's a story that I think perfectly encapsulates his integrity, you know? So after losing a Lok Sabha election in 1999, he immediately returned the money that he had borrowed.
Wow.
For campaign expenses.
Goodness.
I mean, it's a small detail.
Yeah.
But I think it really speaks volumes about
it does. It really does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, when you look at it,
yeah,
the accolades that he received from all these global figures.
Right.
I mean, that's a testament to the respect.
Absolutely.
Right. That he commanded.
Newsweek called him a leader other leaders love.
Wow.
You know.
That's high praise.
Mohammed El-Baradei, former head of the IAEA.
Yeah.
You know, he described Dr. Singh as the model of what a political leader should be.
Wow.
You know, Henry Kissinger praising his vision, persistence, and integrity.
Right.
And even Barack Obama, in his memoir, described Dr. Singh as wise, thoughtful, and scrupulously honest. I mean, you know,
that's quite
that's high praise
collection of endorsements.
It is from people who have seen leadership
at the highest level,
at the very highest levels. Yeah,
and of course, you know, he wasn't immune to criticism.
Of course not.
Right. I mean, often
he was often labeled as weak.
Weak, right?
By his opponents,
by his political opponents. Yeah.
Accused of being in the shadow of the Gandhi family.
Right.
But you know, even his critics. Acknowledged his intellect.
Right.
And his unwavering commitment to India's progress.
Yeah. And it's been interesting to see like the shift in tone from Narendra Modi, who, you know,
was a fierce critic.
Was once a very fierce critic of Dr. Singh.
Right.
And yet in recent years, you know, he's publicly praised Dr. Singh's contributions.
Yeah.
Even, you know, sought his guidance on certain matters of national importance.
It really does.
It does make you reflect, doesn't it?
It does.
On the kind of leadership India needs.
Especially in these uncertain times.
Especially now,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Dr. Singh's approach.
Yeah.
Right? His commitment to dialogue.
Right.
His very quiet but determined pursuit of progress.
Yeah. It's something that I think we can all learn from.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, his passing is undoubtedly a loss.
It is a loss
for India.
Yeah.
But his legacy.
Is vast.
He's huge, right?
I mean, the reforms he spearheaded.
Yeah.
The policies that he championed.
Yeah.
The values that he embodied.
Yeah.
I mean, those will continue.
They'll continue to shape
the nation for years to come.
Yeah. Does make you wonder, you know.
It does.
What aspect of his life.
And work.
Yeah. Will resonate the most with future generations. Right. Will it be, you know, those bold economic reforms?
Right.
Will it be his dedication to, you know, social justice, through things like NREGA and RTI, or maybe his commitment, you know, to diplomacy and strengthening India's place,
India's role in the world.
What
do you think?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
You know, what stands out to you?
Yeah.
What part of Dr. Singh's story do you think will have the most lasting impact?
Yeah, it really is. It's a legacy.
It is.
That's tough to sum up.
Hard to...
Just a few words, you know.
It really is.
Yeah.
I think what struck me most about Dr. Singh was just, the depth of his intellect.
Yeah.
But combined with this just unwavering commitment to public service.
Yeah.
He was never seeking the limelight. He was always focused on the task at hand, on what needed to be done for the country.
Right. And I think that's what makes his story so compelling.
It is.
Yeah, he wasn't this charismatic, orator.
He was a man of action.
Right. He was a man of action, driven by a deep sense of purpose. Yeah. He really believed in, the power of ideas.
Yes, he did.
And the potential of India.
Yes.
And he worked so hard.
He did.
To translate those beliefs into actual concrete policies.
Absolutely. There's a quiet dignity about his life that I find incredibly inspiring.
I agree.
He faced
There's so many challenges.
Tremendous challenge.
The partition as a child.
Right.
Having to navigate these complex political
landscapes.
Steering India through,
economic turmoil.
And yet, he never seemed to waver.
His belief in India's future never wavered.
Yeah. It's that quiet determination. That commitment to progress. Through thoughtful action.
Yeah.
That will be his most enduring legacy.
I think you're right.
He showed us that leadership.
Yeah.
Isn't always about, these big grand gestures.
It's not about the flesh.
Right. It's about...
It's about
the hard work.
Yeah.
The dedication.
The commitment.
The unwavering belief in making things better.
Yeah. He really embodied that idea of being a servant leader.
Yes.
Someone who leads not for personal gain,
right?
Not for glory,
but
truly for the betterment of the people that he served. And in that sense, I think he leaves behind an example that's relevant.
That's relevant for everybody.
Not just for India.
But
for anyone.
For the world,
who aspires to leadership.
Absolutely.
In any field.
Absolutely.
Yeah. His story reminds us that true leadership is about service.
Yes.
It's about integrity.
Yes.
It's about having the courage to make difficult decisions for the greater good.
For the greater good.
And in that sense, Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy will continue to inspire and guide us for generations to come.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, sadly, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. It was a tough one, but I think a necessary one. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, stay curious.